My cousin mocked my small car, saying, "Real men drive trucks." Last week, I pulled him out of a ditch with the same car he laughed at. My name's Derek, 32, male, and I drive a little Toyota Corolla I bought used 5 years ago. It's not flashy, it's not fast, it's not the kind of car people post about on Instagram, but it runs smooth, gets me from point A to point B without sucking my wallet dry, and honestly, I like it. The AC works, the stereo's decent, and it never left me stranded. That's enough for me. But apparently, not enough for my cousin Kyle. He's 35, male, and if I had to describe him in one word, it'd be loud. Not just in volume, though God knows he could drown out a lawnmower, but loud in presence, loud in ego, loud in how he needed to dominate every room he walked into. Kyle drives a lifted Dodge Ram that probably guzzles gas like a frat boy downs cheap beer. The truck is his entire personality. Chrome everything, custom exhaust, truck nuts hanging off the back. Yeah, he's that guy. He's been writing me about my Corolla ever since I bought it. At first, I thought it was just light ribbing, you know? Cousin teasing cousin. But it wasn't. Every family BBQ, every holiday, every random meetup, he'd circle back to it. Real men drive trucks, Derek. You afraid your little matchbox won't survive the freeway? Bet that thing cries when it sees a pothole. It wasn't just jokes. It was the way he said it, the sneer. Like my choice in car was proof of my weakness as a man. And every time people laughed. My uncle, my sister, even my mom chuckled once when he made a crack about my car looking like a rental you forgot to return. And I'd force a smile because what else do you do? Thing is, Kyle's always been like this. He's the cousin who peaked in high school football, the one who still wears his Letterman jacket to family cookouts. The guy who talks about the big game that happened 15 years ago like it was yesterday. He's got this desperate need to prove he's the alpha, and the truck became his prop. I'll admit, his digs got under my skin more than I wanted them to. I'd leave family get-togethers replaying his voice in my head, thinking about comebacks I never said. Dumb stuff like, "Yeah, Kyle, at least I can afford gas without selling a kidney." But I never said it. I just swallowed it. The worst was last Christmas. We were standing outside my aunt's house and Kyle parked his truck in the driveway like it was a trophy. He made a whole scene of it, revving the engine until half the block knew he'd arrived. I pulled up in my Corolla right after, parked at the curb, and before I even got out, I heard him laughing. He walked over, leaned down so half the family watching could hear and said, "Derek, man, do you need jumper cables? I can't believe you still drive this tin can. How do you even get girls in this thing?" The laughter that followed. God, I felt it in my chest, like I was back in middle school getting shoved into lockers. I just smiled weakly and said, "It gets me where I need to go," and walked inside. But that night, lying in bed, I felt humiliated. Angry at him, angry at myself for letting it slide again. I didn't know then that the universe was about to hand me the sweetest payback imaginable. What stung the most wasn't just Kyle's insults. It was how the rest of the family let them hang in the air like truth. Nobody ever stepped in. Not my mom, not my uncle, not even my sister. If anything, they'd laugh along because Kyle had that way of turning everything into a performance. He wasn't just mocking me, he was giving them a show. And I was the punchline. I told myself for years that I didn't care, but honestly, I did. I'd drive home after those barbecues or birthdays gripping the steering wheel too tight, my mind replaying every laugh, every smirk. I'd picture all the things I wanted to say back, cutting comebacks that would shut him down. But in the moment, I always froze. I hate conflict, always have. And Kyle? He thrives on it. He's the type who gets louder when you push back, like a dog that smells fear and doubles down. But under all that bluster, Kyle's life wasn't as picture-perfect as he made it out to be. His truck was spotless. Yeah, but it was also a financial anchor around his neck. Everyone knew he'd taken out some ridiculous loan to lift it and add custom rims, but he bragged like it was a badge of honor. He worked whatever job paid just enough to keep the gas tank full and the payments barely afloat. And then there was his temper. The man didn't know how to lose, at anything. I remember one 4th of July when we were playing cornhole. I landed a winning shot, and Kyle, 30 years old at the time, mind you, actually kicked the board across the yard and accused me of cheating, over beanbags. That's the kind of fragile pride he carried around. The thing is, Deep down, I think Kyle saw me as a threat, even if he'd never admit it. Not because I was stronger or tougher, but because I was steady. I had a job that paid my bills, a car that didn't break down, and friends who didn't just tolerate me because I was loudest in the room. He measured manhood in horsepower and volume. I measured it in stability. And maybe that made him feel smaller than he wanted to admit. Still, every time I tried to stand up for myself, it got twisted. Once I told him to lay off the car jokes. He grinned and said, "Man, relax, I'm just toughening you up. World's gonna eat you alive if you can't handle a little ribbing." Then he slapped my back so hard my drink spilled all over my shirt. Everyone laughed. I laughed too, but inside, something cracked. By the time last winter rolled around, I was tired. Tired of being the butt of every joke. Tired of swallowing my pride just to keep the peace. I didn't know it yet, but fate had been winding this whole thing up for years, and it was about to snap in the most perfect, humiliating way for Kyle. Because pride is funny like that. It always finds a ditch to die in. Don't forget to subscribe. It happened the weekend after a big snowstorm. Where I live, winter's brutal. Slick roads, black ice, snowbanks swallowing half the street. My Corolla wasn't glamorous, but with a decent set of snow tires, it handled the mess like a champ. That car was reliable, steady, just like me. Kyle, on the other hand, lived for conditions like that. Any excuse to show off his truck, to prove he was tougher than the elements. He posted videos of himself on Facebook, revving through half-frozen mud, tires spitting slush like a rooster tail. The comments were all the same. Old high school buddies hyping him up, "Hell yeah, bro, Ram power," like a fan club for his ego. That Saturday, our aunt hosted a late family get-together since the storm had canceled the actual holiday dinner. Everyone was there. My mom, my uncle, cousins, even a couple neighbors who'd wandered over. Kyle pulled up first, as usual, blasting music from his truck loud enough to rattle the windows. He left it idling in the driveway just to make sure everyone noticed. When I rolled up in my Corolla, he was already outside holding court. I barely made it up the drive before he started. "Derek, man, I'm shocked that little roller skate even made it here in one piece. You sure you didn't have to Flintstone it up the hill?" He mimed running with his feet out the bottom of a car, and of course, everyone laughed. I clenched my jaw and forced a smile. "Snow tires do the job," I said. Simple, calm. But my ears burned. He wasn't done. Kyle smacked the hood of his truck like it was a prize bull. "This right here is why real men drive trucks. Power, traction, torque. You could fit 3 of your cars in my bed." "Yeah," I muttered. "Good thing I don't need to compensate for anything." It slipped out before I could stop myself. A couple people chuckled under their breath. Kyle froze for half a second, just long enough for me to know the jab landed, then laughed louder than anyone else, but his eyes cut sharp. I'd poked the bear, and I knew he wouldn't let it go. Dinner inside was the usual chaos, but I kept catching Kyle staring at me, like he was waiting for a chance to put me back in my place. He finally got it when everyone started heading home. The snow had iced over again by nightfall. The driveway was slick, the road worse. Most of us were taking it slow, brushing off cars, letting engines warm up. But not Kyle. He strutted to his truck, calling over his shoulder, "Watch and learn, Derek. This is how a real machine handles winter." He gunned it out of the driveway, tires spinning, snow spraying like fireworks. For a second, he looked triumphant. Then his back wheels fishtailed. The truck swerved, slid off the road, and with a sick crunch of metal, went nose first into a snow-filled ditch. The laughter stopped. Everyone went silent. Kyle's headlights glared uselessly at the sky, his engine sputtering as he tried and failed to gun it back onto the road. He was stuck. Bad. And just like that, fate had delivered me the setup I didn't even know I was waiting for. The silence after Kyle's truck landed in the ditch was heavy, like the snow itself had swallowed the sound. For a second, nobody moved. Then Kyle flung his door open, stomped into the snow, and started cussing loud enough to echo down the street. "Piece of shot road, goddamn ice. This truck wasn't built for this pathetic town anyway." He kicked at the snowbank like it had personally wronged him. My uncle jogged over, trying to calm him down. Easy, Kyle, we'll figure it out. Maybe call a tow? That suggestion set him off. Hell no, I don't need a damn tow. Truck like this doesn't get stuck. It's the road that's wrong. His voice cracked on that last word, and I realized he wasn't just angry. He was panicked. Because this, his truck, his whole image, wasn't supposed to fail him. Not in front of all of us. One by one, family members offered half-hearted advice. Try rocking it forward and back. Maybe shovel some snow out. But every time someone spoke, Kyle barked back louder. He climbed back in, revved the engine, and spun the tires until smoke rose, the smell of burnt rubber mixing with cold air. All it did was sink the truck deeper. That's when I felt it. That creeping heat in my chest. Not just satisfaction, but something sharper. Years of swallowing his mockery, all condensed into this one moment. He was stuck. The real man, the truck guy, the alpha, had driven himself right into a ditch and couldn't get out. And my Corolla sat 20 feet away, snow-dusted and unassuming, quietly idling like it was waiting for its cue. I didn't move at first. I wanted to see how far he'd go, how long he'd scream before he realized brute force wouldn't fix it. Kyle was red-faced, slamming his steering wheel, yelling, "Come on, baby! Don't you quit on me now!" It was almost pathetic. Almost. Finally, my aunt turned to me, voice cautious. "Derek, you've got those snow tires, right? Think your car could, maybe—" She trailed off, like even suggesting it was blasphemy. Kyle whipped his head around, glaring. "No, no way. My truck doesn't need saving from that." He pointed at my Corolla, like it was a rusted tricycle. And here's the thing. I could have let it go. I could have walked inside, let him call a tow, let his pride eat itself alive. But something in me snapped. Maybe it was the memory of him leaning into my window last Christmas, asking how I got girls in a tin can. Maybe it was every smirk, every backhanded joke. Or maybe it was just that, for once, fate had handed me a microphone. I shrugged. Suit yourself, Kyle. I'll just head home. Roads aren't that bad if you've got the right car. I started walking toward my Corolla. That's when it broke him. His voice cracked as he shouted, "Fine, hook your damn toy car up, but if it scratches my truck, you're paying for it." The audience, our family, looked between us like they'd stumbled into a gladiator match. And for the first time in years, the power shifted, because everyone knew what was about to happen. Don't forget to subscribe. Update. Wow. Okay, first off, thanks to everyone who commented. I wasn't expecting this to blow up, but holy hell, reading through your replies last night had me laughing harder than I have in months. Some of y'all said I should have left Kyle in the ditch to learn humility the cold way. Tempting, not gonna lie. One guy even told me to roll down your Corolla window, wave, and just drive home. Absolute evil genius. But here's the thing. I did hook the Corolla up. And let me tell you, watching Kyle's face when my little Matchbox car pulled his prized Ram out of the snowbank, that's a memory I'll replay until I'm old and gray. At first, he was pacing, muttering under his breath about how the chains would definitely snap, or how my bumper would rip clean off. He was already rehearsing excuses for when I failed. But the second my Corolla started inching forward, tires gripping, engine humming steady, you could feel the air shift. My family went dead quiet. The truck lurched, resisted, then slid free like a dog yanked by its leash. The look on his face. God. Pure disbelief. Like physics itself had betrayed him. When it was over, I unhooked the chains and just said, "Guess real men drive whatever gets the job done." Then I got in my car and left. I swear I could still see my aunt's jaw hanging open in the rearview mirror. Since then, Kyle's been radio silent. No texts, no calls. My mom said he's embarrassed and that I should probably let it go, don't rub it in. Which of course makes me want to rub it in even harder. And honestly, here's the part I didn't expect. For once, my family actually saw him for what he is. A guy who talks big but cracks the second things don't go his way. A couple cousins texted me after saying, "Not gonna lie, that was the funniest thing we've ever seen." Even my uncle admitted, "Guess that Corolla's tougher than I thought." So yeah, To everyone saying Kyle needed to be humbled, consider it done. And to the person who commented, revenge is best served cold, like snow and ditch mud, chef's kiss. But knowing Kyle, this isn't over. Guys like him don't just take an L quietly. If anything, I'm bracing for whatever stunt he pulls next. Because if there's one thing about Kyle, it's that he never knows when to quit. The fallout started faster than I expected. For the first couple days after the ditch incident, I thought maybe, just maybe, Kyle would let it go. Embarrassment can humble a man if he sits with it long enough. But Kyle? He doesn't do humility. He does rage. By the third day, he'd posted a long rant on Facebook about how cheap cars with chains can't compare to real trucks built for men. He framed the whole thing like my Corolla had been some lucky fluke, and that his Ram had only gotten stuck because the ditch was unfairly deep. He even threw in a line about how betas celebrate little wins because they don't know what real power feels like. It was pathetic. But worse, he tagged me. Full name. Family, coworkers, even people from my high school saw it. Suddenly, my phone was buzzing with screenshots. Friends texting me, "Yo, you see Kyle's meltdown? Dude's salty as hell." At first, I ignored it. But then the calls started. One night, around midnight, my phone lit up. Kyle. I didn't answer. 30 seconds later, another call. Then another. By the fifth missed call, my voicemail dinged. His voice came through, slurred and angry. "You think you embarrassed me? You didn't prove shut. You humiliated this family, Derek. Real men don't act like smug little punks. You better watch yourself." I sat in the dark of my apartment, phone glowing in my hand, and for the first time I felt it. Real unease. Not just annoyance, but that gut-level warning that someone unhinged was gearing up to do something stupid. And sure enough, the stupid arrived. The next weekend, I walked out to my car and froze. My Corolla's driver's side mirror was smashed clean off, dangling by a wire. The paint on the door had a long, deliberate key mark down to the metal. My stomach dropped. I didn't need a detective to know who did it. Kyle. I could almost picture him in the act, seething in the dark, keys in hand, muttering about real men while vandalizing a Corolla like a teenager. The worst part? My landlord had cameras on the lot. Grainy as hell, but clear enough. Kyle's truck pulling in at 2:13 a.m. Him climbing out, stomping to my car, then driving away like nothing happened. I should have gone straight to the cops. Every sane part of me knew that. But something in me hesitated. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was years of being told to let it go with Kyle. Maybe it was because deep down, I wanted to handle this my way. Because now, the game had changed. It wasn't just about a ditch. It wasn't just about jokes at family parties. Kyle had crossed into my actual life, my property, my peace. And I wasn't about to stay quiet anymore. I didn't sleep the night I saw that security footage. I just sat there at my kitchen table with the video on loop. Kyle's truck rolling in, Kyle climbing out, Kyle smashing my mirror like a coward. Every frame tightened the knot in my chest. It wasn't even about the damage. A mirror, a paint job. I could fix that. It was the principle. He'd crossed the line from words to destruction. And for once, I wasn't going to let him walk away grinning. I thought about calling the cops, but then I pictured the fallout. Family drama, my mom begging me to not ruin Kyle's life, my aunt crying about how her son just made a mistake. No, legal action wasn't the punishment he needed. What Kyle feared wasn't cops. It was humiliation, losing face, being seen for what he really was. And I knew exactly where to hit him, his truck. Kyle worshipped that thing like it was a god. He spent more on rims than on rent some months. He posted selfies with it. It was his one tangible claim to being the man. So I decided to flip the script, make his pride the weapon that buried him. Here's how it went down. The following weekend, my uncle threw another get-together, just a casual football night. I knew Kyle would be there, parked front and center, flexing his truck as usual. I showed up early, mirror on my Corolla still taped up so everyone could see the damage. I made sure people noticed. "Yeah, someone keyed it last week. Sucks, but I'll get it fixed." I didn't say a name, but I didn't need to. The air got weird, like everyone already suspected. Then Kyle arrived, stomping in with that puffed-up chest, pretending nothing was wrong. His truck gleamed under the porch lights, spotless as ever. He made a few cracks about my Frankenstein car, but they didn't land. People looked away. The silence cut deeper than laughter ever could. That's when I struck. I pulled out my phone, stood up, and cleared my throat. Hey everyone, want to see something funny? I connected to the TV, pulled up the security cam footage, and hit play. There it was, in grainy black and white. Kyle's Ram creeping into my lot at 2 a.m. Kyle stumbling out, Kyle smashing my mirror, keying my door, then peeling out like a teenager after a prank. The room went dead silent. My uncle swore under his breath. My aunt's face went pale. And Kyle? He exploded. That's fake. He's lying. Derek's twisting this to make me look bad. His voice cracked. And that was it. The family saw through him. Someone muttered, "That's your truck, Kyle. We can see the license plate." I just sat there, calm, steady, years of swallowed words finally spilling into one sentence. Real men don't key cars, Kyle. The silence after that was brutal. He stormed out, slammed the door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall, and peeled away in his precious truck. And me? For the first time in years, I felt weightless. But I knew it wasn't over. Guys like Kyle don't take humiliation quietly. They double down, they escalate. And I had no idea just how far he was willing to go. Update 2, well, y'all called it. Kyle did not take that L quietly. First off, let me just say I nearly spit my coffee out reading some of the comments on my last post. Real men drive tow trucks had me wheezing, and whoever wrote, "Next time he mouths off, just remind him your Corolla has more wins than his Ram," deserves an award. But the real kicker? Some of you warned me that once I exposed Kyle, he'd unravel. You were right. Oh my God, you were so right. That night after I played the security footage, the family basically saw Kyle for what he was. My uncle muttered something about disgraceful behavior. My aunt was crying, saying, "Kyle, how could you?" Everyone else just avoided eye contact with him. And me? I finally said what I should have years ago. Real men don't key cars. It was like watching a balloon deflate. Kyle stormed out, slammed the door, and left. And I thought maybe, just maybe, that was the end of it. But here's the thing about Kyle. When he loses face, he doesn't reflect. He retaliates. The texts started the next day. Long, rambling walls of insults. "You humiliated me in front of the family. You're a snake. Nobody respects you. You only feel big hiding behind a camera." Then he started sending me screenshots of memes about soy boys and real trucks versus toys. Like, he was trying to turn this into some weird culture war. But then it got worse. My mom called, begging me to just apologize because Kyle was threatening to cut her off if she took my side. My aunt messaged me saying I'd ruined her son's reputation. And then, this is the part that still makes my blood boil, Kyle posted on Facebook that I keyed my own car for attention. Yeah. He actually went with the fake hate crime defense. At first, I laughed. But then I started getting DMs from people I barely know, old classmates, neighbors, asking, "Hey, did you really do that to your own car?" That's when it hit me. Kyle wasn't just spiraling privately. He was dragging me through the mud publicly, trying to rewrite the story. And here's where I'll be honest. I'm torn. Part of me wants to let him burn out, let everyone see he's unraveling. But another part of me, the part that's still stinging from years of his crap, wants to finish this once and for all, because if he wants to play dirty, I can go lower than he ever thought possible. Stay tuned. The thing about Kyle is he doesn't just self-destruct. He drags everyone around him into the blast. A week after the family night reveal, I was pulling into my apartment lot when I heard it before I saw it. Kyle's truck. The rumble of that oversized engine, revving too high, echoing off the buildings. My stomach dropped. Sure enough, he was parked across the street, headlights cutting into my lot. When he saw me, he leaned out the window, red-faced, screaming, "Come out here and say it to my face, Derek. You think you're better than me? You're a coward hiding behind cameras." Neighbors were coming out onto balconies, pulling out phones. Kyle didn't care. He peeled onto the curb, tires screeching, barely missing a mailbox. The truck lurched toward my Corolla, close enough I thought he was going to ram it. I froze, half terrified, half furious. But at the last second he swerved, laughing like a maniac. "Your little toy wouldn't survive one tap from this beast?" That was it. That was the moment I realized. He wasn't just embarrassing me anymore. He was dangerous. And if I didn't shut this down, he'd either hurt me, himself, or some innocent bystander. So I made a plan. The following Friday, my cousin invited me to a bonfire at his property out in the country. He mentioned Kyle would be there, bragging about showing off his truck on the trails. That was my opening. I showed up early, Corolla still wearing the scars Kyle gave it, and parked off to the side. Sure enough, Kyle rolled in later, blasting music, tailgate full of beer. He immediately started talking about how his Ram could handle any terrain, flexing in front of the group. "Bet Derek's clown car wouldn't make it past the mud pit," he sneered. I smiled. "Want to put money on that?" The group went dead quiet. Kyle's face lit up like a kid handed a lighter and fireworks. "Hell yeah, let's do it." So we lined up. His lifted Ram, all chrome and thunder, versus my battered little Corolla with snow tires. Everyone gathered around with phones ready. The mud pit stretched about 30 feet, thick from last week's rain. Kyle gunned it first. The truck roared, mud spraying like a geyser, but halfway through, his back tires lost traction. The Ram bogged down, sank, and stalled with a sickening sputter. He tried rocking it, revving harder, but the more he fought, the deeper it went. By the time he killed the engine, the truck was tilted sideways, mud lapping at the door. The crowd was buzzing, half laughter, half disbelief. Then I went. Corolla in low gear, steady pressure, no drama. Tires gripped, engine hummed, and before anyone could blink, I was on the other side. Clean, smooth, no struggle. The cheer that went up wasn't huge, but it was enough. And the look on Kyle's face, sitting in his real man's truck, door deep in muck, while my Corolla sat triumphantly on solid ground, was everything. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. I just walked over, patted the roof of my car, and said, "Guess it's not the size of the truck. It's how you handle the road." Phones were out. Videos were recording. And Kyle knew it. That was the nail in the coffin. His truck wasn't just stuck. It was sinking in real time, pride and all. And me? I didn't lift a finger to help this time. By the time Kyle finally climbed out of his truck, boots caked in mud, he looked like a man who'd been gutted. His face was blotchy red, hair plastered to his forehead with sweat, fists balled like he wanted to hit something, maybe me. But the damage wasn't physical, it was social. His entire audience had just watched his beast sink like dead weight while my Corolla glided through. People weren't even laughing at him anymore. They were laughing around him. The kind of laughter that cuts deeper because you know you're the only one not in on the joke. And Kyle couldn't take it. He stormed toward me, chest puffed, spitting fury. "You think this means anything? That car's still a piece of shut. You're still a weak little boy hiding behind a steering wheel." I didn't flinch. For once in my life, I didn't shrink under his volume. I just stared at him and said, calm as ice, "Real men don't need to prove it." It was like throwing water on a fire. The words sizzled, but he couldn't find oxygen to flare back up. His mouth opened, closed. Then he spun around and started screaming at the mud, at the truck, at everyone but himself. A couple guys eventually helped drag his truck out with ATVs, but by then, the damage was done. Videos were already on Snapchat, Instagram, even TikTok. By the next morning, I had 3 different people send me clips of Kyle's truck sinking with captions like, "Ram tough," more like "Ram stuck." And Kyle? He vanished. No calls, no texts. His Facebook disappeared. His Instagram went private. My aunt called my mom crying, saying Kyle was in a bad place and that I should have just let him win. But she didn't get it. This wasn't about a race. This was about years of him dragging me down so he could feel taller. And now, the world finally saw through him. The weirdest part? The family dynamic shifted overnight. My uncle texted me, Just 2 words. Good job. My sister called to say she was proud of me. Even my mom, the one who always told me to let it go, admitted, maybe Kyle needed that. And me? I felt lighter than I'd felt in a decade. Not because I beat him in mud, not because my Corolla outshined his truck, but because I finally stood up. I stopped swallowing it. I didn't meet fire with fire. I met it with steady, undeniable proof. Kyle built his identity on being the man with the biggest truck, the loudest laugh, the toughest image. And in the end, it wasn't me who destroyed him. It was his own pride, dragging him down like mud around his tires. My Corolla still has the scratch he left on the door. I decided not to fix it. Every time I see that scar, I smile. Because it's not just damage, it's a reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't a punch or a scream. It's pulling a man out of his own ditch and then watching him fall right back in.